Hello everyone, and welcome to today's show. You are listening to and watching from wherever you are in the world, all things lifestyle with Rena Canady Laster. This is a show where your lifestyle matters, and we talk about how your lifestyle can matter while you do out of the box ministry, wherever you are in whatever capacity you may be in. You may be a student, you may be a parent, you may be an executive in a boardroom, you may be a chef in a restaurant, you can even be playing at the playground. Wherever you are speaking loud and clear, and you are speaking through your life. And so we want to know, are you making an impact? Are you an influencer? Are you doing the things that God has called you to do? Today, I'm going to talk a little bit differently. Last week, I talked about my cousin and her life and how her 22 years here on earth impacted others. Today, I'm going to talk even more about another individual. I'm going to talk about Mr. Willie Frank Wiley Sr., a centenarian who turned 100 years old on April 20th, and he is 100 years old. He was born in 1922, and we recently had an event for him which was very well attended. People came from far and near to celebrate him and to celebrate his life. He is a deacon at the church that he attends in Americus, Georgia, the Friendship Baptist Church, where Reverend Melvin McCluster is the pastor. He has been a bedrock in that church and in that community forever. And he still is in terms of his life and that he's living. He has done so many things with his life, and that's what we're going to talk about today. What are you doing, and how are you impacting others while you are here? You know, he has done so many things, and so when I talk about and look at the secrets to longevity, the secret to his living such a long life, he often talks about the master and being close to God and listening to him and then staying active. Now, he has been very active all of his life ever since I have known him. I have known him for over 40 years, I know. And he has been consistent the whole time that I have known him. He's been so consistent in terms of his personality, in terms of his demeanor, in terms of his teachings, in terms of his advice, and everything else that he has given. He has been right there with the same thing. And so, in terms of being a consistent person, that's one thing that I can say is a bedrock of a person who is living an out of the box ministry and an out of the box lifestyle, is that your life is going to speak. And when I'm teaching classes in writing and in different things in terms of branding and whatever, one of the things that I tell people is that you need to be consistent. You have to be consistent in who you are, and people need to know what they get when they get you. That was the thing with Christ. People knew what they were going to get, no matter where they saw him, no matter where he was. They often knew what they were going to get. And that's one thing I can say about Deacon Wiley. Now, what were some of the characteristics of and him, not only him, but some of the people, centenarians who have lived 100 years or more? One of the things and one of the characteristics for him is that he has lived a life where he enjoys life. He has been going, going, going. He He's traveled the world. Um, he has been very active in the community, all the way from working as a bailiff in the courtroom. He's worked at the hospital as a volunteer. He has done so many different things. He retired from the state of Georgia, where he worked at the surplus warehouse, and he was just always busy. But one of the things that he always wanted to do was to receive his high school diploma. He had to drop out of school, as did a lot of people who were in his age bracket during the time that he was living and during that era, because men were required to work in the fields with the sharecroppers. They were required to help their parents, and they were required to do a lot of things. So they had to get out of school, whether they wanted to or not. And this was the case with him. He had to withdraw from school so that he could work and sharecrop. Now, this is something that a lot of people may not know about, but in the South, people lived on the land that belonged to someone else, and they worked the land for that person. They did the tilling and the planting and all of the different hard work that was required. And in return, they were given a house, and often it was a shanty. That's what I call it. It was like more like a shack, because if you will look at even some of the movies that talk about sharecropping, you will see that the houses they weren't fancy, they weren't anything, elaborate or anything, but it was a roof over their heads, and then they had food to eat because they could often eat from the property that they were helping to maintain. And so this was what the case was with him. He was having to work in the field, he was having to sharecrop the land, and he had to drop out of school. And so this has been one of his goals forever. But guess what, y'all? On last Saturday, he received an honorary high school diploma from the Sumter County Board of Education, and he was elated. He was ecstatic. He had that, and here's a little clip. It's not very clear, but let's see if I can show it to you. Let's see if I can. This certifies that Frank Policy attended the prescribed school system in Sumter County, Georgia, for education, and is awarded this honorary diploma and has earned all rights and privileges pertaining therein this 23rd day of April 2022. Signed by our superintendent and stamped with the Sumter County School seal. 100 years old, y'all. 100 years old. Now, so that takes me to asking you, what are some of the goals that you have? Because, we're here, we are living, and often we take life for granted and we don't have goals. He's had this goal for a long time, because there's a long time and a lot of years between the age when he was in school and now, but he had never given up on that dream. He wanted to have his high school diploma, and we made that happen for him. The school board was elated even to be able to do that. And the fact that someone would still have that goal, someone who would still have that aspiration and would want to do something, was something that they were very happy to do. Now, so he had that goal, he accomplished it, and he had many other goals. His goals included travel. So I know that has been to Japan, he's been to Hawaii, he's been to practically every state in the United States. I can't even remember all of the other places they've been, because his daughter and son-in-law were in the Marine Corps, and so they were traveling all the time. And almost every destination that they were stationed in, they also traveled there and went as well. So they traveled. The other thing about him is that he's always just so laid back. He's such a sweet spirited person, but he's a person that that he means business. But I've never heard him raise his voice. I've never heard him yell or fuss at anybody. but he will tell you and teach you what's right, and he will give you biblical advice. And that was one of the comments that so many of the people said at the program. The young deacons, the young guys who were there, talked about how he modeled for them, how he emulates, or they emulate him. He taught them how to be men and how to be deacons in the church and how to live godly lives. And so he practiced what he preached. And this was another thing, and this is what we're talking about with your lifestyle. Your lifestyle speaks, and his lifestyle spoke loud and clear. And then the other thing is he ate a healthy diet. He eats healthy. I can remember all the time that he would be cooking in the kitchen, cooking vegetables. He loved to cook collard greens, and that's something that he is always doing, cooking collard greens. He likes to bake chicken, just healthy foods. I really can't even remember him eating junk food, and I can't remember him eating a whole lot of stuff that was not healthy. So that is one of the secrets too to living a long life. Then he worked hard. He worked, had a very strong work ethic, and worked very hard in terms of at the job. And then when he finished at work, he would come home and he'd work in the yard. He had a garden. And so he was always busy and always doing things. And so these are some of the secrets of a person who lives a long life and a healthy life. And these are some things that we can emulate about Deacon Willie Frank Wiley Sr. I was looking at the fact that he joined the number of centenarians in the United States. Um, there are, I think there are, I think it said 97. There are a lot of centenarians in the United States. Um, Japan has the highest number, and there are more than 500,000 worldwide. And so centenarians are becoming more and more prevalent now. It used to be that that was something that you did not hear about, people living to be 100. Well, you heard about it in the Bible days, because in the Bible days, there were a lot of people who lived a long time. I think Methuselah lived 969 years. And it makes me think of how God intended for our lives to be. He intended for us to be able to be healthy, be able to live long, prosperous, fruitful lives, and to be able to live a life that is promising of the promises that God has given us. There are 97,000 centenarians. I knew it was 97 something. 97,000 centenarians in the United States right now. And there are more than 500,000 people who are 100 years or older worldwide right now. And it's probably going to increase because the longevity and the lifespan is increasing now, and people are living longer than they did a while back. So we have to start thinking in that light. And in thinking according to those things, then how are you living your life? Are you living your life in a way that is going to be emulated and modeled by other people? Will people talk about you after you're no longer here, or even while you're here? Will they be talking about you and the kind of life you live? So some characteristics then of people who are living lives that need to be emulated are people, number one, who speak positively into the lives of other people. They are role models. They are coaches for people. They want to see other people live a quality life, and so they are speaking life into other people. They're not speaking negativity. They are not speaking doom and gloom, and they are speaking a life of hope. And this is what he did as well, and he's doing today. This is something that you can examine your life and see if you're doing now. Are you speaking hope into other people? Are you encouraging other people? How are you living? How are you living? How are you eating? Are you eating healthy? Are you eating in such a way that your life and your longevity will be something that your body will thank you for? The food today, and he often talks about this. He always says that, the food today is not like the food was back then. The food long time ago, they say tasted better. They say that it was more nutritious. And we know that that's probably true now because our food today has so many additives in it. It has so many artificial ingredients. And um, I bought a loaf of bread, y'all, and I had forgotten it, and it was up on the refrigerator. And I know the bread had been there for probably a month. The bread was not molded. Y'all, hello. It was not molded or anything, which led me to believe that that probably was some of that GMO manufactured stuff that they talk about when it's not out of real ingredients. And then I also had an apple once, and apples are supposed to turn mushy and get rotten and whatever. But I had some fruit once that did not rot, and so it makes you wonder about the food that we eat today. um it's just, we have to pray, y'all, got to pray. But in terms of goal setting, then, have you set goals for your life? Have you set goals for your family? Have you set financial goals? Are you living paycheck to paycheck, or are you living above your means? you know, Financial experts suggest that we live below our means and that we spend less than we make. And then when you look at people like Bill Gates and a lot of the wealthy people, it talks about that we are to tithe. The Bible talks about tithing 10%. Well, guess what? They have a pact where they live on 10%. They live on 10%, and then they give away the bulk of their money. They have a pact where they decided to give away their money. Y'all, can you imagine? Can you imagine? And especially when you're wealthy. And then I was reading about Bill Gates. I think this was several years ago when it was talking about he was living in the same home that he lived in when they first bought a house. Now, it was disturbing to me to find out that they were divorcing, but they still had some life lessons that we could learn from them in terms of how to manage money and how to live this thing called life. The Bible tells us that, trials come to us all. So I can't speak for their marriage. I can't speak for what happened or anything, but we can still take the lessons. And that's one thing we have to remember too about people. Everybody makes mistakes, everybody has things that happen to them. But that does not mean that the lessons that they taught, the good things that they did, the Bible that they talked about, that doesn't mean that it's not true just because they did not obey all of the principles and they didn't do everything that they talked about. It just shows us that we have to be doers. We have to be doers of the word and not just hearers. And that's one of the principles that I espouse to, even in life, the lifestyle, being out of the box. Because if we are living what we speak and we are living the life that we say that we believe, then in terms of our life, we we are speaking the Bible. We are speaking and living out the things that we say that we believe in. And so this is something that we can also do. Um, Deacon Wiley is a person that will talk to you and tell you what the word tells you to do. He will tell you. And one thing that I know about him, he would always say, I'm not going to uphold any wrong. I can't uphold somebody who's doing something wrong. I don't care who it was. If they were wrong, they were wrong. And he was not going to uphold the wrong that was being done. But the thing about it is that he still could show you love, and he still could be a person that showed biblical principles and lived the way that the Bible tells us to live. And so that is something that we need to model. How many times do people get mad with somebody, get upset with somebody, and then they don't want to talk to them anymore? They don't want to show love. They really get really nasty to people or whatever. And this is not what we're called to do. You know, as a Christian person, you can love from afar. You can love somebody and not really be somebody that's right there with everything that they are doing, and you're not upholding or agreeing with everything they do, but you still will love them with the love of God. And this is something that I try and do every day. I don't agree with everybody with whom I come in contact. I don't agree with everybody in my life, but I want to love them. I want to love them the way that Christ loves them. I want to see them as God sees them, because the Bible tells us that He has a purpose and a plan for all of our lives, a purpose and a plan for all of us. And that purpose is to what? Give us a hope, to give us a future and an expected end. And so I have to see the person in that light. And especially when it talks about the expected end, I don't know what God has as their end. I don't know. That's not up to me to say. But whatever their expected end is up to God. And so I cannot determine who that person is. And the other thing is, we have to remember that people change. People change. Just because you know a person and they're acting one way um, today, that does not mean that 5 years from now or 10 years from now, that person is going to be the same way. I tell people all the time, you know, when people want to bring up your past, then you tell them, well, no, that's not how I am anymore. You knew me in chapter 5. I am in chapter 25 now. And so you have missed a lot of stuff, you know, between the time that you're talking about and the time now. There has been a lot going on. There have been a lot of changes. God has done miraculous things in my life, and you missed a lot of it. So let me catch you up, watch my life, and you will see what's different about me. And this is how we have to approach life. Let's not keep people in a box. Let's not keep people where they were long time ago and expect them to still stay there. People do change, and that is why Christ came. He came to show us that we can live a life of abundance. We can live a life of redemption. We can be reconciled to God, and that we can live a life that is not the same that people saw us in before. So let us begin to think about how we treat people, how we live our lives, what we stand for, what are our values in life, what's our value system. Are we living in a life of integrity? Are we living a life that people will want to come and celebrate? We want to start living the life that we want to be remembered for. We want to start living that life right now. I am just amazed at the number of people who showed up for Deacon Wiley's celebration. A room full of people, and they came bearing gifts. They came bearing not only gifts, but um, bearing good wishes and stories, and talking about the things that he taught them, talking about how he impacted their life. And I did not hear not one negative thing, because you know how people are. They'll talk of the good thing, but then people will get behind your back and they'll whisper, about, well, but did you know so and so, or did you ever hear about so? No, that was not the case. People all had good things to say about him. They had commendations. They brought certificates. They brought things that different organizations read about him. And so this is the kind of life, when we're talking about living an out of the box lifestyle, this is what we're talking about. Living a life that people will be able to celebrate, a life that people will want to model, a life that people can go back and use as a reference and say, oh, yeah, she taught me this. Because I often, I live a life now where I want people to be able to remember things that I've taught them. I want to remember them to remember things that I've said. And my other thing is, I'm very careful about what I post. I'm very careful about the programs and the people that I bring before you, because I want them to be people who are impactful, influential. And if I am no longer here tomorrow or next year or whenever, you still can pull my Facebook page, you still can pull my Instagram, my YouTube, or anything else that I have done, and still find that I am still speaking, I am still influencing lives, I am still having impact, and having an impact on a life, and have lived a life that was out of the box. Out of the box. What does that mean? That means that you are not doing what's traditional, what people expect you to do. People expect, oh, you go to church on Sunday and then you come home and that's it. You don't have to worry about serving others. You don't have to worry about doing random acts of kindness. You don't have to worry about being good to people or showing compassion, or you don't have to worry about being nice to people. You don't have to worry about respecting your elders. You don't have to worry about checking on your elderly relatives or neighbors. That's not true. These are all things that out of the box ministry requires you to do, because your lifestyle is what speaks. You can read someone from the Bible all day long, but if you don't live it and your life is not saying what you're living, then there is a problem. There's a problem. And so we got to be able to be out of the box, out of the box. Jesus was out of the box. Y'all can't tell me that when he was healing and when he spit in the mud and put it on the man's eyes, you can't tell me that that was not out of the box. When he was feeding the 5,000, and when he multiplied those few fish and loaves of bread and fed a whole multitude and had leftovers. You can't tell me that that was not out of the box. You can't tell me that the way he loved people was not out of the box. When the religious, super religious people were talking about what you couldn't do on certain days, and oh, how are you talking to her? Don't you know that this person did this or whatever? The person caught in adultery, you know, just because that person was the one caught, nobody, the people who were out there, they weren't looking at the people who were actually with her. They just brought her forward. But what did Jesus do? He was out of the box. He was like, okay, so where are your accusers? Because he who has been without sin, you need to throw the first stone at this lady. They could do it because they knew that they had lived a life that right now they were demonstrating their life was not congruent with what they said they were living. You have to live the life that you are speaking about. There's that song that says, may the life I live speak for me. And that is so true. May the life I live speak for me. And that is my goal in life. And that's what I can say about Deacon Wiley. His life speaks for him. His life speaks for him. May the life I live speak for me. Out of the box. Let's get out of the box. It's not about just sitting in the church pew. We got to make impact. We got to make an impact. We've got to be an influence, because there are people who need what we have. There are people who need to see some realness, some genuineness, to feel love and to feel all of the things that God has prepared for us, the promises that he has put here on earth for us. We can model that, yes, those things are true. They do come to pass. And hey, I'm a living witness. I'm a living witness. I'm a witness that, yes, hard times come, trials come, but guess what? We can do this thing called life. We can do this thing. So I just want to impact upon you today to let's live and begin now to live a life that we want people to be able to come and celebrate. We want to live a life that people want to emulate and a life that people will talk about long, long, long after we are no longer here. So you are listening and have been watching All Things Lifestyle with Rena Canady Laster. I'm here every Thursday at 5 p.m. on the Elevation Television Network. Please tune in. Please watch. Please share. Tell somebody about the show because the information that we have is so relevant. It's real, relevant, relational, and it is far reaching. So we look forward to your tuning in again on next Thursday, where we will talk more and I will have a guest who will talk about their lifestyle. So until next week, you be blessed, you take care from All Things Lifestyle and Rena Canady Laster. We expect to see you. Come on, y'all tune in every week. I look forward to it. I look forward to it, and I hope you look forward to my being here. So, y'all take care and you be blessed.